Today we will talk about Zarahemla. He was a Nephite dissenter who had an intense hatred toward his converted Lamanite brethren. This included, of course, the anti-Nephi Lehites who went with Ammon to inherit the land of Jershon. Now, if you can visualize a horseshoe, the land of Zarahemla is inside this horseshoe. Okay, and inside this land is the city of Zarahemla. Now, the land of Zarahemla and the city of Zarahemla are two distinct things. For example, I was born and raised in the city of El Paso in Texas. Now, the city of El Paso is located in the county of El Paso. So, in El Paso, the county of El Paso is a much larger region which consists of a number of cities and towns and even villages. Now, the name El Paso is English for the pass, and this was used as a pass to the north between the Franklin and the Hueco Mountains. It was an access point for people to travel through back in the day. The same thing exists in the land of Zarahemla. Now, if you can imagine that the bottom of the horseshoe is if we bisect the bottom of the horseshoe and call that a pass, right up through there is Manti, the city of Manti, and to the east on the horseshoe, if we bisect the horseshoe again, create another pass, that would be where the city of Antionum is located, and that's where the Zoramites lived, and that's where the Rameumptom was, and that's where Alma and his sons went to go preach. Okay, now to the opposite side of Antionum, to the west of Manti, is another pass, and it's called Antipara. That was another pass into the land of Zarahemla. Okay, now up to the northwest was the city of Ammonihah, which became the city of Nehors. It became desolate after it was attacked. These four cities were the main passes into the land of Zarahemla, and the horseshoe itself, the left horseshoe, the west side was a big wilderness called the Hermounts, and then there was a southern wilderness, the bottom of the horseshoe. That was the southern wilderness, and then the eastern wilderness. Well, that's where the land of Jershon was. Well, opposite. So you have Zarahemla in the middle, then you have the horseshoe, which represents the wilderness all roundabout, and then you've got the land of Jershon to the east. Now, Jershon was on the coast of the East Sea, so the anti-Nephites, they kind of had beachfront property given to them by the Nephites. But then when Zarahemla came and attacked those who were anti-Nephi Lehites that followed Ammon and were converted by Ammon, they ended up being relocated into the heart of Zarahemla. And in the heart of Zarahemla, inside the land, inside the county, so to speak, was Melech. And that's where they were very well protected. So they were relocated in there, and the Nephite armies then occupied Jershon to the east. Okay, so we got Jershon to the east, up towards the north of the land of Zarahemla. Then you have Antionum to the southeast, and that was a pass. That's where the Zoramites were, who worshipped on the Rameumptom. So that kind of sets the stage. So now you have Zarahemla, who was a Nephite dissenter and a leader, a chief captain of the Lamanite armies. And he also led Zoramites, who were also Nephite dissenters, and I believe also the Amlicites. So you have Zarahemla in charge of this massive army, consisting of Lamanites, Zoramites, and I believe Amlicites also. So they're coming up through Antionum, way down south below the horseshoe is the land of Nephi and all the Lamanite lands, way down south. We're not even going to worry about that. We'll just focus on the horseshoe analogy. So Antionum was kind of like a headquarters for them, these armies. And this is what Alma feared at the beginning, which is why he went to try and reclaim the Zoramite dissenters maybe he could convert them. And he did. He converted a lot of them. Well, especially the poor. The poor of the Zoramites were converted, and they went up to inherit the land of Jershon. Okay, so the Lamanites, led by Zarahemla, they're coming up. They're coming up Antionum, and up along the beach, along the coast of the East Sea, up towards Jershon, and then coming in around the north, around the wilderness, into Zarahemla, the land Zarahemla, and then along there is the river Sidon. The river Sidon lay between the wilderness and the city of Zarahemla, and so right there on the east side and the west side of Sidon is where the big battle took place. And so, well, the Captain Moroni, we know he fought for liberty, for land, for love, his family. Zarahemna, he just wanted to destroy his brothers. And so, yeah, I'm going to read to you Alma chapter 43, verse 43 and 44. Now in this case the Lamanites did fight exceedingly, yea, never had the Lamanites been known to fight with such exceedingly great strength and courage, no, not even from the beginning. And they were inspired by the Zoramites and the Amalekites, who were their chief captains and the leaders, and by Zarahemla, who was their chief captain, or their chief leader and commander. Yea, they did fight like dragons, which is an idiom for just a very fierce, ferocious beast. And many of the Nephites were slain by their hands. Yea, for they did smite in two many of their head plates, and they did pierce many of their breastplates, and they did smite off many of their armies, and thus the Lamanites did smite in fierce anger. Okay, so they were angry. They hated their brethren, their converted brethren, but the Nephites were inspired by a better cause under Captain Moroni, because they were fighting for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, basically. And so they had this really fierce battle, and Moroni, Captain Moroni, he did not delight in the bloodshed. As a matter of fact, when Zarahemla's armies were surrounded, Captain Moroni saw that they were afraid. They were losing the battle, and so he wanted to stop the fight and said, okay, pause, time out. If you guys go away in the covenant of peace, lay down your arms, well, you can go. Just don't come back. Zarahemla did not want to do this. He knew that if he were to take up this covenant, he would break it. So he refused. So Moroni is like, all right, well, let the battle ensue. By the way, Zarahemla gets scalped, and because of this, they all freak out, and they end up Zarahemla ends up making a covenant of peace. It wasn't until Zarahemla knew that he was in danger, those closest to him, and his life was about to be lost, that he said, okay, we're going to go away in peace. He didn't seem to really care about the Lamanites and the Zoramites and the Amalekites. He had plenty to spare, but once it came really close to him, it was time to lay down his weapons, and so he did. And according to the Book of Mormon, there hadn't been a greater battle, more fierce in all the history of the Nephites than this one. But Captain Moroni, because he did not delight in the bloodshed of his brothers, he allowed them to go in peace after they made a covenant of peace. And this is the story of Zarahemla. We never hear from Zarahemla again. To be continued.